5 games in and the Tar Heels are already having a players-only meeting? Oh, this is juicy.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Love it. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch on this Wednesday. And special shout out to all you everydayers, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, which is growing literally by the day, and of course our Locked On Tar Heels insiders as well. Want to join any of those groups? The links are in the show notes. Coming up, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if it wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Download it and get started today. Coming up on the show today, Carolina apparently holds a players-only meeting after the win over Navy on Tuesday night. We'll talk about that and my thoughts on it. Four Corners recap, where we're starting to see Seth Trimble's absence be glaring. I'll explain what I mean. The shady stat of the game, which is going to be uplifting, I promise you. Some ridiculous Caleb Wilson numbers to talk about. Carolina now gets their 2,400th win, 2,400 wins. They're just the third program in college basketball history to achieve this milestone, trailing only Kentucky and Kansas, who both lost, by the way, on Tuesday night. So Carolina picked up a game on them. Kentucky has 2,425 and Kansas 2,417. So Carolina trails Kentucky by 25 and Kansas by 17. Love to catch them up and take back over that lead. I hope you listened to the postcast that we did last night live after the game. If you're not aware, we go live after every men's basketball and football game. Would love to have you join us Saturday after the Duke game. It's going to be great. Carolina, despite the feels of this game, actually beats Navy 73-61. The Tar Heels move to 5-0 on the season. And ultimately, that's good news. You learn from it and then you move on. That's what we're going to do. But what if I told you that Carolina was up by 24 points with 4 minutes and 45 seconds to go in this game last night? Because I bet that's probably forgotten from your brain. That's great news, right? Oh, 24, the line was like 24, 25, right in there. Carolina's got 4:45 to go. You kind of cruise home, get a nice victory, and then you got a week off before you play St. Bonaventure next Tuesday down in Florida. The air is free and everything's. I'm sorry, what? Navy went on a 15-0 run right after that? You got to be kidding me. What are we talking about here? But that's what happened over the course of the next 3 minutes. Carolina, instead of being able to maintain that 24-point lead, or, sometimes from there you'll see it like the reserves come in and maybe you see it drop to like, I don't know, like a 19, or maybe it bubbles up to like 27 or something like that. But no, Navy cuts the lead down to 9, and then Carolina needs a Jarin Stevenson 3 and a couple other Caleb Wilson's 7th and final dunk of the night to wrap it all up and round it up to win ultimately by 12. Shouldn't have been that, but it was. And consequently, instead of feeling fine about this game because you won by mid-20s, now you only won by 12. Literally got cut in half. Consequently, we all feel the way we do. The result of all of that nastiness, a players-only meeting held after the game. But Isaac, hang on. Didn't you just tell me that Carolina is 5-0? Shouldn't a players-only meeting be when like things are really bad and you've lost some games and you're struggling and you got to figure out how to get the ship going back in the right direction? It's a great question, and I'm going to answer it in just a second. But first, let me set up the context. Michael Coe, our buddy Michael Coe from that covers Carolina, does a great job with that, had tweeted out a couple things that said this, quote, Henri Veesaar said the Tar Heels called a players-only meeting after the game, thus the delay. He said it was productive, and he feels that everything got hashed out. He went on to quote tweet that and said, Jarin Stevenson says, it was mainly Seth Trimble who called it. And the delay in question, Michael had previously tweeted, "It's been 25 minutes since the game ended, and we still haven't spoken to any UNC players. Bubba Cunningham, Carolina's AD, just walked into the locker room," end quote. So here is, you might see that and say, what? This team's undefeated. Why are you calling a players only meeting? Again, as I joked about, isn't that reserved for when things are going bad? Here's why I think this is absolutely the right call. Do not allow something like what happened tonight to fester, because then it grows and gets into you, and it's likely to happen again, especially when you don't get to get back on the court right away. Carolina's got a week before they play another game. Nip stuff like this in the bud immediately. And there might be things from this game. Obviously, we weren't in the meeting. We don't know what was talked about, other than what Henri Veesaar said, that everything got hashed out and it was productive. But what we don't know is, was there something last night on Tuesday that was the straw that broke the camel's back of some other things that had been building amongst the guys? Was it just like, hey, everything had been fine, but there was this critical issue, and now we got to fix whatever that issue is? Either of those are worthy of having had this meeting, even when you're undefeated. So I love this, and I love even more that the instigator of this meeting was your senior captain, Seth Trimble. I am so encouraged to hear that he's the one responsible for calling it, because your senior leader, your senior captain, even in a cast, is taking ownership and he's taking responsibility, and he's going to hold his whole team accountable. And that's the key word. We as a team have to dive in and be in lockstep with one another. And if we're not, things like what happened at the end of this game are going to happen, and all the more glaring as we get ready to go off and play St. Bonaventure, who can get you if you mess around. I promise you that. And then Michigan State, who just killed Kentucky, and then Kentucky in Rupp, who's going to be plenty mad because they've not been playing well. And then you come home and you have Georgetown on Sunday, December 7th. That stretch, you need to play well in that stretch. And not just play well, but win games in that stretch. And so to do this helps take care of that, to make sure it's going. For me, like, this screams that Seth Trimble is saying, is thinking in his head, look, guys, this is my swan song. This is it for me. And while I'm not on the floor with you right now, I'll be darned if I'm going to let what happened last year to us happen again. And so the second I see a crack, the second I see a chink in the armor, we're going to take care of this right now before that chink in the armor grows. We're going to get this crack in the floor sealed up before it can grow and then things fall. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to get out ahead of this thing and make sure that we're good and that we're ready to go. These guys have talked so much about the chemistry that they have and how together they are. Doing something like this is the sign of a group of young men who trust and love one another enough to say difficult things. Because when you don't care and you don't love each other, that's when you just sweep it under the rug and you go on about your business. Not this team. They're saying, what we're trying to accomplish matters too much to let it go. So let's talk it out. I'm all in on that, man. Absolutely. And we saw this, like, this level of accountability. We saw it with Brady Manick. We saw it with Cormac Ryan. We saw it with Harrison Ingram that same year. Remember, Brady sitting at the dais. I forget what it was for. And he's like, this ain't what I signed up. I forget exactly what he said, but basically, this ain't what I signed up for to come here. And if this is what it's going to be, nah, that ain't it. I'm spending my last year in college doing it right. And so let's get this figured out. And boy, did they, right? And he was a massive part of that. So here we go. Now, a couple questions that I thought were really good questions that other people might have that came up in the Locked On Tar Heels Discord as we were talking about this. And so I'm going to share those. By the way, a reminder, if you want to join the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, that link's in the show notes. Absolutely free to join. We'd love to see you in there hanging out with us. A great, safe place to be a Tar Heels fan. Someone asked, and I forgot to write down who this was. Apologies for that. But somebody, when this players only meeting was talked about, said, whoa. Does this mean there's an issue in the locker room? And that's a great question to ask. It's a fair question, but the answer is unequivocally no. The reason they're doing this right now is to stop there from potentially becoming an issue in the locker room later. Again, this is what healthy families do, right? My wife, Maggie, and I, one of the greatest things we try to do for one another is be open and honest in loving but truthful ways. She holds me accountable. Like if she sees me being an idiot, she'll say Schade. She calls me Schade when I'm in trouble or something like that. I love it. It's so fun. Schade, you got to stop doing that, or whatever it is, right? Like that's what healthy relationships are about. So this is not a locker room issue. It's a locker room health thing. And I'm all about that. So it's a great question, but they're great. Another one, and it comes from Reservoir Dogs, who said, but aren't the coaches the ones who are supposed to be responsible for making the players accountable? I talked about accountability between the guys, and Reservoir Dogs was saying another great question, but aren't the coaches the ones who are supposed to make the players accountable? I would say, yes, they are, but go with me on this analogy. It's different when it's pure accountability between the guys on the team. I would compare it to the difference between like if your parents tell you to do something and you're like, okay, dad, all right, mom, sure, whatever. And you kind of blow it off versus when a close friend, a significant other, they tell you to do something and you take it very seriously. Like have you ever seen the movie Father of the Bride with Steve Martin? His daughter comes back from this long, like she's been gone away, study abroad or something like that. And she's met this guy on her trip and she brings him back to meet her parents, and they got engaged and they're going to get married. And then she and her fiance are going to go take a drive around town or something to show him the area. And Steve Martin, the dad, says, you should really take a jacket. It's kind of chilly a little bit outside. And she's like, oh, dad, I'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And then her brand new fiance says, hey, I think it's a little bit cold out tonight. You should probably grab a jacket. And she's like, oh, okay, really? And puts the jacket on. That's what I'm talking about. The coaches are Steve Martin. When they tell you to put your jacket on or they have this meeting, you hear it. But man, you hear it different when it comes from your fiance. When it comes from one of the guys that you're in the trenches with, that's when it matters. And so, yes, the coaches are responsible for keeping the guys accountable. But man, when you can self-govern as a team, it's so much healthier for dynamics and camaraderie and chemistry. And so I love it. So Reservoir Dogs, great question. And then here's the last thing I'll say on it. We'll move on. Doing this now, having this meeting right now tonight or on Tuesday night after this game, instead of once you go down to Florida and it's like, all right, boys, we're off together. Let's meet and talk about how things are going. The fact of doing it right after the Navy game, getting all these conversations out, is now you've got a week of practice and film and hanging out and getting ready to go on this trip to where you can, while you're not going to play a game for a week, you can remedy it all in practice and start preparing to be shot out like a cannon when you play. Say, I feel so bad for the fighting Wojnarowskis because Carolina is going to come out ready to throw haymakers. And I can't wait to see it, led by Caleb Wilson. Oh, by the way. Now, Seth was able to call a players meeting, but he was not able to help out on the floor, and it's starting to show up. I'll explain that and everything else coming up in the Four Corners recap. Right after I tell you about FanDuel, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game, or maybe you want to ride a hot hand, no worries, man. FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks or anything else you want to try to find. Plus, you can combine all those live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout, man. That's great stuff. All of that keeps every game exciting because you got something you're like, oh man, I hope this happens because I got some money on it, right? Like, it's really smart to do, and it keeps you engaged. Looking ahead to football this coming Saturday, Carolina at home hosting Duke, but the Blue Devils, 6.5-point favorites over the Tar Heels. Carolina needs this win to get bowl eligible. We'll see what happens there. And if you want to get in on it and you're like brand new to FanDuel, great. Because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up right now and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen of the day or your first watch of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network there is. So grateful to all of you for being part of that. Isn't it fun to be in on that together? Yeah, we're part of something really big, man. And that's cool. Let's get to the Four Corners recap from this game, where I give you 4 things that are takeaways from me coming out of it. We just talked about a way in which Seth Trimble had a major impact on this team, calling this players only meeting. But unfortunately, he's still not able to help out on the floor. And a situation like this game last night is where you really feel it. The leading scorer for Navy was little Austin Benini, their point guard, their lead guy, 19 points, 5 of 20 shooting. That's so inefficient. You needed 20 shots to get to 19 points. Gross. But anyway, he did it. 19 points, 5 of 20, 3 of 4 from 3, 6 of 6 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, a block, and 1 turnover. And when you look at that stat line, this annoying little point guard that was like a foul merchant, right? Like, and he was crafty. He was doing it, and Carolina was falling for it. If Seth Trimble is playing in this game, that does not happen. Seth Trimble shuts this little man down. You know, as I said, he had 19 points. Instead of that line, I would guess instead of 5 of 20, it would be more like 2 of 20, 1 of 4 from 3. And instead of 6 free throw attempts, it'd be more like 4. Sure, he'd still go 4 of 4, but he wouldn't get there as much because Seth wouldn't be fouling him. So instead of all that, it'd be like 9 points instead of 19 on all of that. And instead of like 5 rebounds, 5 assists, just 1 turnover, probably limits his rebounds, Seth does, to like 2 rebounds, maybe still 3 assists, but more turnovers because Seth's going to get up into him and cause issues. It's glaring what an opposing guard is able to do. And that's so frustrating, especially because the guy's sitting on the bench that could eat that dude's lunch. That is what it is. But you in addition to Seth's defense, you really miss his athleticism. In the first half of this game, when Caleb is saddled with foul trouble and on the bench, there's not that guy. When you have both Seth and Caleb, what it allows you to do athletically and dynamically and transitionally is otherworldly off the charts. And the Tar Heels aren't able to do that right now. Obviously, Carolina is still feeling the effects of his off-court leadership, but there's just something different when he can't be out there, and that's a struggle. Carolina needs him back, and we're feeling it in ways like Benini kind of having his way, even though it was a very efficient version of having his way. Number 2 in the Four Corners recap. Yes, the 15-0 run in the end for the Navy sucks, man. That's difficult to swallow and deal with. But lost in that is the fact that just before it, Carolina had held the midshipmen scoreless from 14 minutes and 16 seconds until 7 minutes and 3 seconds. That's just over 7 minutes. I'm not saying not without a field goal. 0 points. Navy did not score for just over 7 minutes of the second half of this game. And the game went, Carolina was up 9 when that stretch started. They were up 20 when that stretch was over. So we've been talking about this Navy 15-0 run. Carolina had just been on an 11-0 run. It was an extended 19-4 run. The problem was that 19-4 run ended just as the 15-0 Navy run began. But don't forget what Carolina's defense is doing. They are very, very good. I've been taking some notes. I want to talk more about the defense on Friday's show as we're heading into the weekend. Carolina doesn't play this weekend, basketball anyway, but I just thought that would be an interesting conversation to have more about what the defense is doing. So stay tuned for that. But I just don't want to miss that Carolina had done very, very well over the course of those 7+ minutes. The problem was the next 3 minutes, they give up a 15-0 run. That's got to be fixed. That's got to be solved. Number 3 in our Four Corners recap, the 3-point shooting for North Carolina. It's had grown 2 games ago from under 30% to up to, I think it was like 32%. And Carolina doesn't set the world on fire in this game, but they do wind up shooting 8 of 23, which is 34.8% on the season. I actually forgot to go and look, but that's going to jump their 3-point average. Let's see what it gets up to now. 3-point percentage, 32.6. So it's just steadily climbing. And when you're so early in the season and the sample size is so small, it doesn't take much to keep jumping it up. But the hard thing was Carolina started 5 of 7 from beyond the arc in this game, and you're feeling really good about that. It's like, yeah, okay, dudes. But then they didn't hit again the rest of that half. I think they missed their next 3, and then they missed their first like 7 or something like that to start the second half before finally hitting it. It was rough, and wound up, as I said, 8 of 23, which is not bad. But you'd like to keep going up, get it to 35% and more. But here's an example for you of how big the swings are, and I'll tailor it to just one individual. Kyan Evans came into Tuesday night's game shooting 41.2% from 3. That's really good, man. Like 40% is crazy good. And he's at 41.2. Unfortunately, you may or may not be aware, Kyan went 1 of 8 from beyond the arc in Tuesday night's game. And that dropped him from 41.2% down to 32% flat. And that seems like, oh my goodness, what a crazy hole I got to dig out of. But here's the thing. If Kyan, instead of going 1 of 8, had gone 3 of 8, he'd still be sitting at 40%. That's how big the swings are this time of year. So don't worry. Better days ahead for Kyan, better days ahead for other guys. You know, Luka's starting to get it. He had 3 of 6 himself on Tuesday night. And so other guys are coming. But right now, there's going to be a lot of swings when you look at the percentages. So don't get freaked out if you see something really low. It'll get better. The fourth thing in our Four Corners recap was the rebounding on Tuesday night. Carolina's been great at rebounding. They've out-rebounded every opponent before Tuesday night by double digits. Their offensive rebounding percentage has been great. It's, you know, the Hubert Davis era Tar Heels have not been the offensive rebounders of Roy Williams years. This year's been a lot better. But in this game, Carolina still like this is the thing. Carolina still won the rebounding battle in this game by 8, 7, something in that range. But it was the first time not having a double-digit rebound margin this season. This was the first game, and this isn't a percentage, so it's not, you know, it's possession dependent and shot dependent. I hear all that, but just go with me. It was the first time this season that Carolina did not get to double-digit offensive rebounds. Or close, they got 9, but still, that's like, interesting. And maybe more interesting than that is that this is the second game in which Carolina has lost the offensive rebounding battle, something that they've been doing so well in the early parts of this season. So I'm very, and again, they did that as the 6th biggest team in the nation by average height, while Navy is in the bottom like 15 or something like that. That's not going to cut it, man. That rebounding has to get better. And again, yes, Carolina won the rebounding battle. Like, let's not miss that. But there were some surrounding numbers along with it that just gave me some pause. I want to see the guys be like Jarin Stevenson is being a dude, man. He's getting in there. He's doing all those kind of things that you got to do to just make winning plays. And that's not his reputation. I've been so proud of the work that he's been doing. But other guys got to be that same level of, this is my ball. Get away from me. I'm going to rip it from your cold, dead finger. You know, like that kind of mentality. That's what Carolina's got to show. Now, we still got to get to the shady stat of the game. We're going to go positive with that. And then I got some wacky Caleb Wilson numbers for you as well. All of that coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about game time, college football is back. There's just a couple weeks left of the regular season. Then we get to conference championship games and then bowl selection stuff. Man, it's crazy, but college football is still going on. And I couldn't be more excited, man. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it. But let's be real about this, y'all. Actually getting tickets to the game can be more of a battle than the actual game itself. Endless lines, hidden fees, the prices jump up on you at checkout. They don't need all that. And that's why you got to use Game Time, which is the app that gives the advantage back to you, the fan. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is actually what you pay. I know that sounds like a crazy concept, but it's true. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful. Oh my goodness, less stressful than any way I've found to buy tickets. And I love that you can see the view from your seat right there in the app. Coming up, Saturday's game I mentioned in the FanDuel read for Carolina hosting Duke in football. Man, like, get in on that action, but also buy a seat. You can get tickets for zone deals as cheap as $34. That's awesome. There's also tickets available for the Fort Myers tip-off next weekend if you want to go down and check out Carolina against the Bonnies and Sparty, man. So take the guesswork out of buying college basketball and football tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the shady stat of the game. Yes, sir. So we got the shades on today, as we always do for this thing. If you're a fine seller of shades, let's partner. Let's make something happen. That'd be fun. All right, shady stat of the game. One of the things that Carolina has done very well consistently this entire season is sharing the basketball and finishing the play. Because it's one thing to try to make an assist. It's another thing for the guy to actually score that assist. And that's what Carolina has been doing so well. I usually talk assist percentage, and that is probably the more effective thing. And it was great again. Carolina, for the fourth time in 5 games this season, had above 60% assist percentage, which if you look back through the Hubert Davis era, which we've done together, it's crazy what Carolina is doing with that. But let me just give you the raw numbers. Each year of the Hubert Davis era, total number of assists through the first 5 games. You ready for this? 21-22, the first Hubert Davis season. Through 5 games, Carolina had 72 team assists. The next year, the year that Carolina missed the tournament, 57 assists through the first 5 games. 23-24, the year Carolina was a 1 seed, 70 assists through 5 games. Last year, 78 assists through 5 games. So those first 4 years of the Hubert Davis era, 72, 57, 70, 78. This year, through 5 games, the Tar Heels have amassed 90 assists. That's 12 more than the next closest number, which was last year. That's 33 more than the lowest number, which was the second year. What Carolina is doing to share the basketball and move it is so fun to watch. They're not over dribbling. They're not getting themselves into issues that, I'm sure it's happening sometimes. I need to go back and look at the tape on that. But more often than not, Carolina is moving the ball so well, and it is incredibly fun to watch. Sometimes that's around the perimeter. Sometimes it's high-low. Sometimes it's some triangle concepts. I love to see it, and it's incredible. Keep it up, Tar Heels. Really, really love to see that. Kyan Evans, the head of the snake on that thing. But also, like, as I was looking at Luka Bogavac right now, his assist to turnover ratio is like 3 point. I put it in here somewhere. I can't, but it's like 3.8 to 1, which is insane. 3.8 assists for every 1 turnover. Dude, Luka Bogavac, you're killing it. All right. Speaking of crazy numbers, as I was putting in, so post game, once the box scores come out, I update all of my stats, my charts, my data. If you want free access to all that, by the way, come check out the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders program, where we're bringing you stats that are more accurate and always, a wide variety. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, through the first 5 games of his Carolina career, here's what Caleb Wilson has done. Are you ready for this? 20.6 points a game, 10 rebounds a game. So he's averaging 20 and 10. I wonder if Cam Boozer's doing that. I should go check this out. So averaging 20 and 10 while shooting 66% from the field, 40% from beyond the arc, 2.6 assists a game, 1.8 blocks a game, and 2 steals a game. Do you realize how crazy that, like, I genuinely need to go kind of look throughout the NCAA data for this year, because I would almost guarantee you that there is nobody doing what Caleb Wilson has done here with 20.6 points, 10 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 1.8 blocks, 2 steals, all while shooting 66% from the field and 40% from beyond the arc. That is crazy. And I know ESPN was gassing up, what was it? The Cam Boozer number he had, like the first college basketball player in however many years to have 100 points, 50 rebounds, and 20 assists through 5 games. Well, Caleb's not far off of that. He's over 100 points. He's exactly 50 rebounds, and I think he's like 13 or 14 assists. But he's got Cam Boozer beat on blocks and steals. So it's like, let's not go like, and hear me say, I am not dogging on Cam Boozer. Cam Boozer is a phenomenal basketball player. I wanted so bad for he and his brother to come to Carolina and spurn Duke. Like, how incredible would that have been? So I'm not bagging on him at all. I'm just saying, when we talk about Cam Boozer like that, we darn well better be talking about Caleb Wilson like that in the same breath, because this dude is right there and he is cooking, and he's going to cook all season long. That spurt he went on in the second half was something crazy. And it's not just about making shots. He's getting on the floor. He's hustling. He's assisting. All of it is great. And I'm so here for it with Caleb Wilson. Really, really good. That's a good, happy note to get out on after a sad game, right? Yes. Really good to be together. Looking forward to tomorrow's show. David Noel is going to join me, a Tar Heel. Man, I loved David Noel, his leadership, very much similar to like what Seth brings in that regard. So I'm excited to talk to David about all of this, the players meeting, what you do now, getting ready as you head into Fort Myers, and all sorts of great stuff. Excited for that conversation. Join us on Thursday, won't you? It'll be great. If you haven't subscribed to Locked On Tar Heels on YouTube, do that right now. Hit the bell notification so you get notified anytime we go live. If you're an audio listener, awesome. Subscribe on your favorite audio platform. If you want to be part of our community and have conversations with everybody, it's free to do. Locked On Tar Heels Discord community. That link's in the show notes. It's a blast to get to have conversations with other Tar Heels. If you want access to all of those numbers I was talking about, if you want free access to me as well for conversations, Locked On Tar Heels Insiders, that link's in the show notes. Great way to help support the show. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, peace.